In the heart of the Middle East, where the fertile lands of Mesopotamia once fed ancient civilizations, modern Iraq faces a daunting challenge: feeding its growing population. Rice, a staple in the Iraqi diet, symbolizes both sustenance and struggle. This documentary explores the intricate dance between agricultural policy, marketing challenges, and the resilience of a nation striving for self-sufficiency in the rice sector. Rice, one of Iraq's vital summer crops, is primarily grown in the central and southern regions. Despite its nutritional importance, rice cultivation is limited, constrained by the country's water scarcity.
آخر سنة الوفرة هي تقريبا 2020. من بعدها صار جفاف وتدري بوقتها كورونا صارت وهواية أمور حدثت بالبلد، فعلى أثرها انقطعت زراعة محصول الشلب يعني، والسبب الرئيسي هو عدم توفير المياه طبعا. بهذه السنين عانى المزارع.
For decades, Iraq has wrestled with the challenge of increasing its rice production to meet the demands of a growing population. From 2000 to 2020, Iraq's local rice production consistently fell short of national consumption needs. The reasons are manifold: limited water sources, outdated farming techniques, and inadequate government support.
This stretch of land should be planted with barley, but Saudi hasn't been able to grow any crops this season because of a severe shortage of government-subsidized seeds, fertilizer, and pesticides. And he says that if the situation doesn't improve soon, he may have no choice but to give up farming.
We need so much help. I don't even know where to start. We don't have fertilizers. We don't have enough water this year to grow our crops. Our cattle are on the verge of death. We now find ourselves having to sell one cow in order to feed the others. We just can't handle all the expenses on our own.
The research reveals a stark reality. The nation's inability to produce enough rice to feed its people has led to heavy reliance on imports, driving up cost and threatening food security. To combat this, the Iraqi government implemented a series of agricultural policies aimed at boosting rice production and stabilizing the market. The core of these policies involved subsidizing rice prices to make local production more viable. But was it enough? The research showed that despite the government's efforts, production levels remained insufficient to meet domestic needs. While subsidies did help to some extent, they also led to market distortions. The study highlighted a crucial finding: the government's focus on price support was not matched by efforts to increase the marketed quantities of rice, which could have driven a more significant impact on the market and price stability. The discussion section of the study raises important questions about the future of Iraq's agricultural sector. It emphasizes the need for a more holistic approach, one that not only supports prices but also addresses the root causes of low production. This includes investing in modern irrigation techniques, providing better access to farming inputs, and improving the overall infrastructure for agricultural marketing. As Iraq looks to the future, the path to self-sufficiency in rice production will require more than just policy tweaks. It demands a concerted effort to revitalize the entire agricultural sector. The study concludes that only through a comprehensive approach, balancing production, marketing, and policy, can Iraq hope to achieve food security and economic stability. Rice is more than just a crop in Iraq. It is a symbol of resilience. The story of Iraq's rice production is one of struggle, adaptation, and hope. With the right policies and practices, Iraq can overcome its agricultural challenges and secure a brighter future for its people. This is Fhilsem Castro. We are group number 1. Thank you for watching.
All right. So, good day, everyone. My name is Amil, and with me to discuss the next case is Fhilsem Castro and Clarissa Balladeng. So, after Maverick Amborgo and Gabriel Balcos discusses the agricultural marketing cooperatives and rural inclusiveness, for this case, we will be delve in the or into the impact of agriculture policy on marketing the rice crop, to be more specific. So the title of this study is Analysis of the Impact of Agricultural Policy on Marketing the Rice Crop in Iraq for the period of 2000 to 2020. So this study focuses on understanding how agriculture policies influence the marketing of rice crop in Iraq over the 2 decades or over 2 decades. And the researchers they aim to assess the actual contribution of these policies and their positive role in supporting the rice market. So later on, when we are about to discuss the findings and what are the numbers that we have seen or investigated in this research, will see how these policies give like the positive role in supporting this rice market in Iraq, to be more specific. So for us to better understand, next slide. So here, so the problem in this study is that Iraq faces a major challenge in the field of providing the rice crop due to inability of local production to meet the requirements of local consumption, and the increase is resulting from demographic factors such as increase in population and other economic factors. So as the researchers identifies a significant issue in Iraq regarding the rice crop, the primary problem is that the local rice production is insufficient to meet demographic or the domestic demand, which has been exacerbated by demographic growth and other economic factors. So, due to the shortage, it really highlights a critical gap between the production and consumption that poses challenges for food security and market stability. And because of this gap between the production and consumption, of course, it indicates the systematic issue in the agricultural sectors, right? So, as mentioned, due to the increase of population and the rising demand, it places an additional pressure on the local production capabilities. And so, this problem necessitates a deeper investigation into how agriculture policies might be influencing production and distribution. And so, what are the measures that could be implemented to bridge the gap between the supply and demand, and the demographic factors underscores the urgency for sustainable agricultural practices and efficient market strategies. Okay, now that we have understand the problem and what's causing it, let's delve more into the background of this study by discussing the state policy towards prices and, of course, the approaches used in agriculture marketing. But first, let's discuss the state policy towards prices. So, in here, as the researchers critique the state price policy for its shortcoming, especially it notes that the pricing strategy does not account for, do you call this, quality, type, and size of the rice crop. So this oversight discourages producers from investing and or in sorting and classifying their crop, which lead to market insufficiencies, right? So because of this lack of differentiation in pricing based on the quality of the rice crop and the characteristic, it can potentially or can probably lead to market distortions and what do you call this? Disincentivize producers from improving their products. Okay, so effective rice policies should incentivize quality enhancement and ensure fair market practices. Because this discussion highlights the need for more no one's pricing strategy that reflect the diverse attributes of the rice and aligns it with both producers' interest and of course the consumers' need. Okay, so now let's move on to the approaches used in agricultural marketing. So there are lots of approaches that has been used in agricultural marketing for it to leverage its function. Okay, but let's discuss it at least one by one, or let's discuss it in a concise possible way. So in the study, the researchers examines several approaches to this. Okay, so number one or the first approach is what we call on or what they call on the functional approaches, which focuses on the key activities tulad ng mga transportation, the sortage, and the processing of these crops. Okay. Next is the organizational or the institutional approach na tinatawag nila. So, this approach looks at the role of the institutions such as the cooperatives and the government agencies as well as the LGUs. Okay. Next is the commodity approach. So, the commodity approach analyzes specific crops and their supply and demand dynamics. Okay. Next is the systematic approach. So this approach views the marketing system as a whole, no, including the interaction between its components, right? Next is the strategist approach. So this approach evaluates naman the effectiveness of marketing strategies. Okay, very, what do you call this? From the word itself. Okay, so it's very easy to understand. Next is we have, or lastly, we have the decision-making approach. So this approach investigates how decisions are made within the whole process of the marketing of this rice crop. So as you see, each approaches provides a valuable insight into different aspects of agriculture marketing. But how these approaches like have differences, okay, how can we like further understand this? So because of these different approaches, this of course offers various perspective on agriculture marketing. It is also providing a comprehensive view on how rice is marketed in Iraq. Okay, and each approach of course help identify specific challenges and opportunities within marketing system. For example, let's say the functional approach, no, it can reveal insufficiencies when it comes to their logistics. Okay, and one more example is the systems approach. So in the system approach, this can highlight the overall effectiveness of the market framework. Okay, um, it oversees kung ano yung mga magagandang gawin or mga potential ways or strategies for us to see like a good framework for us to market this specific crop. Okay, so understanding these approaches allows for targeted improvements in marketing strategies and policies intervention. Okay, so next slide. So next is the methodology. So it says here the research depends on the methods of descriptive and qualitative analysis, which is the use of simple of multiple regression analysis to determine the nature of the relationship between the dependent variable and the independent variable of the economic variables under study using the EViews program. Okay, so the researchers they employ both descriptive and qualitative analysis method. So as we know, the descriptive analysis, it provides an overview of the data and the trends, while the quantitative analysis, it uses or it is used to simplify and multiply regression techniques to explore the relationship between the dependent and independent variables. And for us to, if bago lang sa paninig nyo yung tinatawag nating EViews, so the EViews program is utilized for statistical analysis. So it's just, statistical, but in a more um, elevated term. But yeah, so, with the combination of descriptive and quantitative method, the researchers, or it will allow researchers through examination of the impact of agriculture policies on rice marketing. So, that's gonna be it for my part. I'm gonna be passing the floor to Clarissa Baladeng to further elaborate or explain us what are the findings and the analysis for this specific case. So I hope you understand or learn from what I have mentioned or what I have discussed earlier. So again, this is Amil. Thank you so much for listening.
Let's now proceed with the findings and analysis. The first key finding is all about production deficit. The study found out that Iraq's rice production was insufficient to meet the local market demand, necessitating government intervention through subsidies to stabilize rice prices and ensure sufficient supply for the growing population. So, like for example, in the year 2003, based on the table, we have witnessed a decrease to 85,000 tons compared to the previous years. This is because of the change of the basic system and the change in the structure of the Iraqi economy and the directives of the government, so which affected all Iraqi institutions and state departments in general and the agricultural economy in particular. So we can see there based on the table na hindi naging consistent yung rice production sa Iraq at that time. At some point meron pa ring pagkakataon na mababa or sobrang baba yung rice production, like for example that in the year 2003 based on what I mentioned earlier. And this also suggests that the agricultural policies implemented in Iraq during the period from 2000 up until 2020 have had a significant impact on rice production. Some policies may have been ineffective or poorly executed, leading to suboptimal outcomes for farmers. For example, subsidies and support programs might not have reached the intended beneficiaries, or they may have been insufficient to address the needs of the agricultural sector. Like for example, in the year 2008, mababa pa rin yung naging rice production despite na nagkaroon ng implementation for agricultural initiative. 'Di ba? So, additionally, policies that prioritize other crops over rice or that fail to incentivize rice production can contribute to the insufficiency in meeting the local demand. The lack of a coherent and supportive agricultural policy can hinder the growth and development of the rice sector. Also, we have found out that environmental factors have also played a crucial role in the insufficiency of the rice production in Iraq. The country has experienced extreme weather conditions such as droughts and floods, which have adversely affected the rice cultivation. Droughts reduce the availability of water for irrigation. That's why Iraq's main problem at that time is the water scarcity, while floods can destroy crops and erode the fertile soil. And furthermore, farmers lack the necessary funds to purchase high quality seeds, fertilizers, and modern farming equipment. This financial strain limits their ability to increase the production and improve the crop yields. Let's now proceed with the second key finding, which is about the policy effectiveness. The government's encouragement policy, which included the price subsidies and support for rice farmers, helped increase the marketed quantities of rice. However, the study also noted that the reduction in government support could diminish the positive impact on these policies. Like for example, in Table 1, it is clear that the marketing of rice has been on the rise and fluctuated during the study period from 2000 up until 2020. This is because of the allocation of sufficient space for rice cultivation, the provision of sufficient water quota, and also the government helped the farmers by providing some books about marketing, about farming, and about agricultural it's about anything about agriculture. So the government's encouragement policy, which included the price subsidies and support for rice farmers, played a crucial role in increasing the marketed quantities of rice in Iraq from 2000 up until 2020. By providing price subsidies, the government effectively reduced the cost of production for farmers. This reduction in cost incentivized farmers to produce more rice as they could achieve higher profit margins. Additionally, the support mechanisms such as providing better seeds, fertilizers, and farming equipment further enhanced the productivity of rice farms. As a result, the overall supply of rice in the market increased, leading to higher marketed quantities. And the third key finding is about price sensitivity. The marketed quantities of rice significantly impacted the price, suggesting that supply demand dynamics played a crucial role as well in determining the rice prices. However, the pricing policy did not fully account for crop quality, type, or size, leading to inefficiencies and inequities in the market. Through the above results, it is clear that there is a positive correlation between the marketed quantities and the price by achieving the value of 0.177 and with a level of significance 0.177 greater than 5%. When the marketed quantities of rice increase, it means there's more rice available in the market. According to the law of supply and demand, if the supply of rice increases while the demand remains constant, the price of rice will generally decrease. Conversely, if the supply decreases and the demand remains constant, the price will increase. This dynamic was evident in Iraq from 2000 up until 2020, where fluctuations in the marketed quantities of rice directly impacted its price. Agricultural policies that influenced the production and marketing of rice played a crucial role in the supply changes, thereby affecting prices. Okay. The last key finding is market challenges. The study highlighted challenges in the marketing system, including issues with the efficiency of the agricultural marketing infrastructure, and suggested that improvements in these areas could lead to better outcomes for producers and consumers. The marketing system for rice in Iraq faces several challenges. One significant issue is the inefficiency of the agricultural marketing infrastructure. Poor infrastructure leads to increased transportation costs, delay in getting the product to market, and higher spoilage rates. The inefficiencies reduce the overall profitability for farmers and increase the prices for consumers. Additionally, the lack of modern storage facilities means that a significant portion of the rice crop may be lost to pest or to spoilage before it even reaches the market. The adoption of modern technology is another critical factor affecting the efficiency of the agricultural marketing system in Iraq. Technological advancements Technological advancements in areas such as irrigation, pest control, and crop monitoring can significantly enhance productivity and reduce losses. However, many farmers in Iraq lack access to these technologies due to higher cost or limited availability. Furthermore, the absences of digital platforms for market information and transaction means that farmers rely on traditional, less efficient methods for selling their produce. Let's now proceed with the conclusion. The study emphasizes the importance of consistent and well-targeted government policies in supporting the agricultural production and ensuring the food security. Consistent and well-targeted government policies in supporting agricultural production are crucial for economic stability and growth. When the government provides subsidies, invests in infrastructure, and ensures fair pricing, farmers can produce more efficiently and sustainably. This leads to a stable supply of rice, which is a staple food in Iraq. A stable supply helps in maintaining affordable prices, reducing the inflation, and ensuring that the population has access to essential food items. Moreover, a thriving agricultural sector can create jobs, reduce poverty, and contribute to the overall economic development of the country. The role of subsidies in stabilizing essential food markets is critical, particularly in countries where production does not meet demand. Second conclusion, subsidies play a crucial role in stabilizing essential food markets, especially in countries where production does not meet demand. From an economic perspective, these subsidies act as a financial assistance provided by the government to farmers and producers. This financial support helps reduce the cost of production, making it more affordable for farmers to grow essential crops like rice. In the context of the Iraq, the study highlights how subsidies have been instrumental in ensuring that rice production remains viable despite various challenges. By lowering the production cost, subsidies enable farmers to sell their produce at lower prices, which benefit consumers by making essential food items more affordable. This in turn helps stabilize the market by preventing sharp price fluctuations that could lead to food insecurity. Additionally, subsidies can encourage farmers to invest in better farming techniques and technologies, further boosting production and ensuring a steady supply of essential food items. Last one, efficient marketing infrastructure, including the fair pricing mechanisms that account for quality and variety, is necessary to improve market outcomes and incentivize producers. Um, Efficient marketing infrastructure is crucial because when marketing systems are well organized and transparent, they reduce the transaction cost and information between the buyers and the sellers. This leads to better price discovery where prices accurately reflect the quality and variety of the rice crop. Consequently, producers receive fair compensation for their products, which incentivizes them to invest in higher quality and diverse varieties. Improved market outcomes such as increased sales and profitability are the result of these efficiencies. In the context of Iraq's rice market from 2000 up until 2020, efficient marketing infrastructure could have mitigated the adverse effects to the policy changes and market disruptions, leading to a more stable and prosperous agricultural sectors. Let's now proceed with the recommendations. First, it is necessary that the government shall consider that the population has risen to a great extent in the current years. Therefore, rice production should increase with the proportion of the population increase in order to fight hunger, poverty, and malnutrition. Next one, the marketing process must be developed for all of the produced quantities to be marketed in the coming years when production increases to meet the actual demand. This actually includes developing human resources and applying the contemporary tools for marketing, whether locally or abroad. When production increases to meet the actual demand, it is crucial to develop a robust marketing process to ensure that all produced quantities are effectively marketed. This is because the balance between supply and demand is delicate. If the supply exceeds demand, it can lead to surplus, which may result in wasted resources and financial losses. Conversely, if demand exceeds supply, it can lead to shortages and missed opportunities for revenue. By developing comprehensive marketing strategy, producers can better align their supply with market demand, ensuring that all produced quantities are sold efficiently. This involves understanding market trends, consumer preferences, and competitive dynamics to create targeted marketing campaigns that drive sales and optimize resource utilization. Despite the drought and lack of water, it is possible to produce the rice in Iraq to meet its deficit by using modern techniques such as dry farming and developing climate environment adapted seeds, besides providing huge funds or importing. Fourth, rice crop has to be taken seriously and firmly by the state in developing and increasing its production, given its importance to the economy and nutrition of the country. Last one, agricultural extension is needed in order to educate and guide farmers on how to shift from the traditional way that consumes a lot of time and effort to the modern ways that require less time and effort but have high returns through the use of improved seeds that give higher quality and higher production. Improved fertilizers, modern irrigation techniques, and modern machinery. This in return increases the nation's agricultural output. That's all for my part, and thank you so much.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Fhilsem Castro, and today we will try to localize the study and apply it into a Philippine context. So for this portion of my report, we will answer the question, how did various agricultural policies in our country shape the marketing of our local rice produce? So without further ado, let me discuss to you two major policies, agricultural policies in our country that shape our rice marketing. So, as much as I want to discuss lots of agricultural policies that have truly shaped rice marketing in our country, we don't have the luxury of time. So, I will only discuss to you number one, the rice tarification law, and number two, the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program. So, let's start. So, number one, we have RA 11203, also known as the Rice Tarification Law or the Rice Liberalization Law. It is an act liberalizing the importation, exportation, and trading of rice, lifting for the purpose the quantitative import restriction on rice and for other purposes. The principal author of this bill is Ms. Cynthia Villar. All right, so before the enactment of the Rice Tarification Law in 2019, we have quantitative restrictions. So the primary concerned government agency in this is the National Food Authority. So meron tayong yearly import quota, even monthly. So for example, NFA will release a memo, a notice, na for the month of January, only 100,000 sacks of rice will be permitted to enter the country. Any way more than that, for example, sumobra ng 10,000 sacks, 20,000 racks, we will risk neglecting our local farmers or local producers. Or we can risk price destabilization. So malaking problema yun in market. So NFA puts these restrictions to either protect our local farmers or to simply stabilize rice prices in our country. Next is we have strict licensing system. Not anyone can import to the country, only those licensed by the NFA. And next is we have better price stabilization. So basically, consumers get fair prices and the farmers get fair profits. Quid pro quo situation ang nangyayari dito. However, it changed noong nagkaroon tayo ng RTL. And I will tell all of you that later. So let's see ngayon kung how RTL changed everything. Okay, so after the enactment of the Rice Tarification Law in 2019, there were no longer quotas and no longer strict licensing system. Basically, nagkaroon tayo ng free importation. So, no quantitative restrictions as long as you can pay the 35% plus tariff imposed by the Philippine government. So, these tariffs vary from primarily two things. If you are part of ASEAN and kung gaano ba karami yung i-import mo. So, technically, walang import quota, no quantitative restrictions, pero merong prescription and recommendation ang NFA, ang ating government. And if lumagpas ka doon sa recommendations nila, you will pay higher tariffs. So yun lang yung difference. If you can still pay those high tariffs, lumagpas ka man doon sa sinet na recommendations ng ating government and kaya mong bayaran yung napakataas na taripa, some is ranging to 175%, pwede. Let's discuss that mamaya ng mas malawak. Next is the NFA's rules were reduced. So now they are used as buffer stocks and for relief operations. So they are no longer regulating and controlling rice prices and imports. And next is it became consumer-centric. Consumers get great prices and the farmers get unjust profits. So for me to be able to discuss this ng mas malawak and for you then na mas malinawan, I will show you a playful example. So let's imagine this. Rice tarification law application, we are going to use Alice, a Singaporean Chinese rice importer, and Diwata, a Filipino smallholder rice farmer. Let's start with Diwata. Let's say Diwata, being a smallholder farmer with limited resources, limited technology, limited capabilities, can fairly sell his rice for 40 pesos per kilo. Alice, with all her technology and mastery of production, can sell her imported rice in the Philippines for 20 pesos per kilo. Tingnan niyo yung difference ha. Alice, she has already mastered the technology, the expertise. How she produces rice is very efficient and very low cost. So kaya niyang i-produce yon for 20 pesos and ibenta yon sa merkado for 20 pesos. And Diwata, being a smallholder farmer, limitado ang resources, limitado ang technology, can fairly sell his price for 40 pesos per kilo. Apply natin ng tariffs. Now the government imposed tariffs on Alice. So since Alice is a Chinese importer, although she is Chinese, she lives in Singapore, and Singapore is part of ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and merong trade agreements within these nations. Only 35% of tariffs will be applied to her. So 20 pesos plus 7 pesos tariff imposed by the government, she can sell her rice imports in the Philippines for 27 pesos per kilo. Apply natin ngayon post-tariff price. Alice can sell her produce for 27 pesos per kilo while Diwata can sell his for 40 pesos per kilo. Ngayon, if you are an ordinary Filipino citizen, given that each of their produce has similar qualities, which one would you choose? Sinong pipiliin mo? Of course, we can expect from our Filipino consumers, especially ordinary Filipinos, na kumikita lang ng sapat, na bilhin yung 27 pesos per kilo imported rice compared to the 40 pesos rice produced by our Filipino farmers. Masisisi po ba natin sila? I think not. So this is how for a lack of a better word, how damaging this law is for our Filipino farmers. It is a helpful law for Filipino consumers. It is. It really is. But how about our Filipino farmers? Rice tarification law tortures them every single day. So, ang nangyayari, importers can get this rice and produce this rice even for very, very low cost and import it in the Philippines and sell it for a low price. And yung mga produce ng ating Filipino farmers ay hindi po nabibenta dahil ang binibili sa merkado ay yung mga imported produce na to kasi nga mas mura. You're getting the point? Mas mura ang imports kaysa sa ating local produce. So we can expect the market to buy cheaper ones. And ang nangyayari, if they buy the cheaper ones, our Filipino farmers are left behind. Hindi po sila nakakapagbenta. And what happens is their produce ay nasisira na lang. Nagiging wastage. So that is our situation, or maybe not the situation of all farmers, but some farmers, especially our smallholder Filipino farmers. Mga maliliit po na magsasaka ang kawawa rito. So may isang argument dito So, yung tariffs po kasi na ini-impose ng government sa mga importers na to, yung 7%, ay 7 pesos na tariff kanina na in-impose kay Alice, or 35% tariffs to 170% na tariff na ini-impose sa mga importers na to, ibinibigay po ito sa mga magsasaka. So what happens is tariffs are converted to subsidies. Nagiging subsidiya ito. Pero, ang argument po kasi dito, this is on a personal take, on a personal note, these subsidies do not matter if our Filipino rice farmers can't still match the price of imports. So sabihin man natin na bigyan natin ng 1,000,000 na subsidiya si Diwata. If she cannot match the price of these importers, wala rin pong kwenta yon. Hindi rin mabibenta. Bumaba man yung 40 pesos per kilo niya to 35 pesos per kilo. If Alice can produce it for 27 pesos pa rin, wala pa rin hong kwenta. Filipinos will still buy cheaper ones. Kahit piso ang diferensya, Filipinos will still get the cheaper ones. I tell you that. So, rice tarification law, if you ask me, should be junk. Let's bring back quantitative restrictions in the Philippines and let's protect our Filipino farmers. They're our own, and let us protect our local industries. So this is on a negative side. Let's go on a positive one. So next, we're going to discuss the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program by the Department of Agriculture. So Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program is a direct marketing scheme where farmers or fisher folks are directly linked with the consuming public, making available food commodities at reasonable prices to consumers through accessible Kadiwa stores in strategic locations. Okay, so let's understand what is happening before the Kadiwa program. So some of our farmers rely on private middlemen. So we have a dominance of middlemen. Since some of our farmers have no distribution and logistical capabilities on their own, they rely on private middlemen. Some have exploited them. So you get the point? Ang ating mga smallholder farmers, mga maliliit na magsasaka, they don't have trucks. They don't have vans, jeepneys even, that could transport their own produce to the market. So what they do is they hired private middlemans. Nakikipagkontrata po yan sa mga middleman. And ang problema dito is some of our middleman exploits our Filipino farmers or fisher folks. Sabihin na, mahal ang gasolina ngayon. So bibilhin namin to ng mas mura. So in the end, farmers and fisher folks don't get lots of profit from their produce. Gusto kong magalit kayo. So isipin nyo farmers spend months every day of their lives trying to grow these produces. After i-grow, aanihin. After i-grow, papagiling, papamil, etc. Lots of processes. And let's say that farmers can get at least 10 pesos per kilo. Ngayon, since they are being exploited by this middleman, kukunin nila ng mas mababang presyo sa mga farmers na to. So, wag na tayo, bigyan namin ng mas mura yan, mahal ang gasolina ngayon. Sige ka, di mo mabebenta yan. So, we have established that not all of our farmers have little to no education. So, that's the truth, that's the reality of life in the Philippines. And because of these incapabilities, our Filipino farmers are being exploited by this middleman. So, ito ho yung sitwasyon natin before the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program. Next is, since hindi nga nabebenta, since walang magbe-bridge, so yung ibang farmers, may kakayahan silang maghanap or meron silang mga nahahanap na middlemen, yung iba po, walang hahanap, especially smallholder farmers. Kasi hindi rin naman lahat ng middlemen is kayang kontratahin lahat ng smallholder farmers, especially if the smallholder farmers have very little produce. Hindi pa abot ng isang truck. So, hindi po pwede yon. So, anong nangyayari sa mga smallholder farmers na to, sa mga maliliit na magsasaka, yung kanilang mga napoproduce is hindi po nabebenta. They become wastages. So, these are common issues na nangyayari in Batanes, yung supply ng bawang doon. It also happens in Nueva Vizcaya. Yung kamatis naman, it also happens in Nueva Ecija with rice and onions naman. And next is we have limited market access. Rural farmers cannot supply their produce to urban consumers since they don't have anyone that will bridge their produces to consumers, for example, in Metro Manila. So, limited yung market access nila. Pwedeng yung kanilang mga produce is na isusupply or na ibabahagi lang nila sa mga local markets nila doon. So, ito yung ilan sa mga sitwasyon na nangyayari noon before our Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program. And let us see how did this program help our Filipino farmers. But before that, let me show you an example wherein ano yung nangyayari sa ating mga farmers before the enactment of the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program. So let's say that Diwata is a Filipino smallholder rice farmer. So ang production cost niya sa nabibenta niyang bigas per kilo is 15 pesos. And kaya niya itong ibenta sa middleman for 20 pesos per kilo. So, mind this, he planted, he sustained, harvested, milled, and sacked the rice. Siya gumawa lahat nun. So, ibibenta niya yun ng 20 pesos per kilo. So, ang kanyang profit, all in all, is 5 pesos. This is an exaggeration, but I just want you to understand and see kung paano siya nangyayari. So, Alice is a private middleman. So, she exploits Diwata and buys his produce for 20 pesos. Sometimes demands for cheaper selling price. Diwata, mahal ng gasolina ngayon, baka pwedeng 19 pesos per kilo na lang. Ganon. And sells it to her partner resellers for 30 pesos per kilo in Metro Manila. Mirna is a seller in the market. So, she buys the produce from Alice and sells it in the market for 40 pesos per kilo. This is how grave the situation is before. How some sellers and some traders exploits our Filipino producers. See, you spent months trying to grow and harvest these produces and you will get little profits from it. Kita ho ng malaki ay yung traders and yung sellers. So this is a situation before the Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program. So with the implementation of Kadiwa, this is what happened. Diwata, a Filipino rice smallholder farmer, the overall rice production cost is the same, 15 pesos, and sells it to the DA for 30 pesos per kilo. The DA's Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita program buys or markets the produce from Diwata at a higher price and transports it directly to Kadiwa outlets where consumers are waiting. So you see, wala lang private middleman, government na po ang nagtatransport at nagmamarket nito. So Kadiwa outlets are simply markets wherein the produce is sold for 30 to 32 pesos per kilo. So leaving a huge profit for our farmers. Not exploited, not taken advantage of. The end result, the consumers get low prices and our producers get high and fair profits. So this is how beneficial this direct marketing scheme by the Department of Agriculture is. And we can only hope that the DA will expand this program. No? Dumami yung Kadiwa outlets nationwide. Dumami yung Kadiwa partners ng DA so that more farmers will be bridged to more consumers. With this in mind, I am pleading to all of you. Nakikiusap po ako. If you know any Kadiwa outlets near you, as much as possible, please buy from Kadiwa markets. Because I assure you, you will get fair prices. And our Filipino farmers can get high profits. So that would be all, guys, for our presentation. We are group number 1, and we hope that you learned something from the 2 research papers that we have discussed. We hope that you saw the purposes of this study, the findings of this study, recommendations of this study, and somehow try to localize and apply these findings, these conclusions on a local context. I-apply natin kasi applicable naman. So in the Philippines, we also have agricultural marketing cooperatives that we need to sustain and develop. And we also have rice policies that we either need to improve or even junk to definitely improve the overall agricultural landscape in our country. So I am Fhilsem Castro, and together with Mr. Amil, Mr. Amborgo, Ms. Balcos, and Ms. Balladeng, we are Agrilikha, and we hope that you learned something from our presentation. I hope you made it till the end of this video. Thank you. Goodbye.